Brogan first.
The Aboriginal people who inhabited Brogan's homeland of Sydney long before she was born were coined by settlers as the Eora people, which literally translates to from this place. Although technically not from this place, there aren't many people I know with more passion, determination and Hatfield spirit than Brogan Lear. This is why I believe she's the only person in this room for the role of VP Discipline. Brogan's sheer level of involvement over the past year and a half provide ample testament to her ability to fulfil the role of VP Dis. As senior Frep, she's demonstrated her ability to lead and also to be led, working in partnership with Joe to provide what was the biggest and best Freshers Week in Hatfield history. Sorry guys. This also afforded her the opportunity to get to know the ins and outs of college and the ways of the college officers, which is without doubt an invaluable asset to anyone on the exec. And I quote, "I've been on more dates with Bash than any other boy in college." In her capacity as women's rugby captain, Brogan's honed her disciplinary skills, ensuring that there are as many club members who attend snowy training sessions and matches as they do socials, which has provided pivotal in the club's growth and success. However, her college involvement has stretched further to the role of HCWFC treasurer, open day rep, line and winter ball deck, and all alongside a busy chemistry degree. Brogan has a pragmatic and holistic understanding of what would be required of her as VP Discipline. Her college-wide ideas and initiatives range from effectively managing the Mary's accommodation situation through to establishing academic subject support spanning all year groups within college. On the outside, Brogan's offensive happiness and eternal optimism have allowed her to establish herself as somewhat of a mother hen, making her trustworthy and also approachable. These are qualities which I believe have been inherently lacking in a number of past VPs. However, beneath this is a person who's not afraid to get stuck in, whether it's on the rugby pitch or at home ensuring that the household chores get done. And having been made to feel at home since arriving here from Australia, Brogan's passion for college life runs deeper than most of us can understand. And I believe that it's these personality traits, coupled with her experience and ideas, that make Brogan the best candidate for VP Discipline. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Will. We can now have Josh up who's proposing Ryan.
Hi. Ryan is like a god walking amongst mere mortals who has great facial hair. He has a voice that could make Wolverine purr and suit so fine that makes Sinatra look like a hobo. In other words, he is Hatfield's very own Ron Burgundy. I wouldn't be up here if I didn't think Ryan was totally right for the job. And if he wasn't paying me £100, I'll collect the money in the bar afterwards. So, when I was asked to propose him, I took to inquiring about Ryan's suitability for the job. And I've been reliably informed that he's indeed a member of Hatfield College JCR, so all seems fine to me. But apparently, I have to waffle on a bit more. Ryan is a leader, and has demonstrated he is able to work effectively in a team, taking on the responsibilities with ease. He captained his hockey club from under 13 to under 16 level, and for Lancashire, and has Frep twice. He is approachable, friendly, and always willing to listen. And this is important at a time when the views of the whole JCR need to be voiced, not only to the exec, but to the college and university. Ryan is able to balance his time effectively between his degree and playing uni hockey, which demands huge commitment and that he willingly gives. He will be sacrificing this next year so he can transfer his time over to working on the exec, which I have no doubt would not go unnoticed. Ryan is hard-working and dedicated to Hatfield. If he is not losing on the handball court, he'll be playing pool or ping pong or socialising in the bar. In fact, if he didn't have a degree, he would be in college 24/7. Furthermore, he is always contributing to college and has represented HCHE numerous times, as well as refereeing for them and playing in the varsity match against York last year. He takes great interest in matches of the JCR, and as a VP, it is important to have someone who deeply cares about making a difference. Ryan is enthusiastic, experienced, and can be trusted to do the job properly. He has the skills to be VP Dis and a valued member of the exec. And that's since this. Okay. Ryan will be a good VP Dis. Thank you.
Right, thank you guys. Now I'm going to hand over to Alex, who's going to ask some questions.
Okay, so this question is going to Ryan first. What do you think the realigned role of VP Dis now entails?
The new role, as far as I'm aware, can be broken down to 7 main issues. 3 of them are actually in the title. So Vice President, you have to sort of deputise from the senior man if they're ill or anything, you take over the roles as senior man. Also take on the workload if they've got a lot of uni work on, got quite broad shoulders to sort of spread the weight of their work. Third bit is discipline, VP Dis. Any sort of college issues, from being the fun police at formal to defending you if you somehow get yourself in trouble. I'll sort of stick up for you and say that you shouldn't be punished too harshly. As well, be working closely with the SHAPE champions, making sure that they're on track to what they're doing. You attend a lot of council meetings, so like college council, JCR exec meetings, and sort of treasury meetings, and so on. There are others, but I think I'm running out of time, so we'll leave it there.
I think it has a much more strategic and sort of college-wide view now, as opposed to dealing with lots of small and sometimes spontaneous issues in college, which does, as Ryan said, mean that you have to deputise and dispute the senior man, so support them, but also keep them on track and make sure that they're running the exec for the college and not just for the exec or for small matters. Also going to a lot of meetings, as Ryan said, college council, college treasury, finance committee, colours, health and safety, fun things like that. Working with the SHAPE champions as well, I think that would be a really nice idea to get academic Facebook groups going, so to get groups in college, like all the chemists, all the biologists, English students, to come together and have a space to ask questions and get help with things that they're struggling with. I know that I would have found that really helpful, so work with the SHAPE champions and also get that linked in with the Hatfield Lions Association. And also to just manage wider projects like the Mary's accommodation and bigger projects like that.
Thank you. What is your understanding of disciplining both the JCR and the MCR at formals?
Obviously, the main idea of disciplining at formals is just to make sure that we're all having a fun time, but nothing's getting too out of hand and too rowdy. Essentially, we do have a lot of people on high table that are here to take an impression away from Hatfield, and we want to make sure that they know that we are fairly sensible people as well as we can have fun. So with sconcing, just making sure that people I would say, given a fair warning or really know what is permitted and not permitted. And if they go past that, then they do need to be fined. And that, I would say, entails both the JCR and the MCR. You are the only one in there who is allowed to sconce, apart from senior man if you yourself are being a bit too rowdy. So I would say that that's job at forms.
Sconcing at formal is sort of important, as there are probably 100 people having a meal. You don't want that meal spoilt by the 1 or 2 who have got too rowdy because they've done a great race or just generally a bit arrogant and think they're above everything. So you're there to make sure everyone has an equally good time. In terms of the MCR, as far as I'm aware, they aren't, could be wrong, aren't sconceable as they're not part of the JCR, but it doesn't mean that I can't go over and tell them to pipe down. I can be quite intimidating when I want to. So, and I'm also sure that Timber will have a word if they're being a bit too rowdy and not listening to me. But yeah, basically it's to make sure everyone has a great time at formal.
What skills do you think you will bring to the role of VP Discipline?
I have lots and lots of skills. Humility isn't one of them. But I will be, as Josh mentioned, I have captained a lot of hockey teams. I've been a leader. I've also worked as part of teams. I've prepped twice. So I've got a lot of college spirit. Other things such as I am relatively intimidating at times. I'm also very approachable. I've been likened to a teddy bear once or twice. Other things, I'm very resourceful. So if someone comes at me with a problem, I don't sort of shy away from it. I'll attack it head on. Use every sort of weapon at my disposal to find a suitable solution. I'm quite clear and logical about how I think. That's why I study maths. Everything's got to be logical, and it'll help you find the best solutions for any problems.
I think mainly for being senior frap and being involved in frapping and running rugby and being Hatfield treasurer for football, I've learned a lot about how college works and how it operates and the officers and the systems that need to be in place for everything to go smoothly. Frapping, somehow Joe and I managed to restructure a lot of the week, remake the Hatfield Freshers Guide, get about 2 hours of sleep, and somehow maintain our mantra that enthusiasm never peaks. So I think being happy and approachable, as well as being stern and responsible when you need to be, are assets I could bring. I have had far more dates with Anthony Bash than I have with anyone else in college, which could be a selling point, who knows. As well as having mild to quite severe OCD, being very organised and having to have everything in order, everything in control, as well as I think just dealing well with people generally. As a VPD, you do often have to be stern and responsible with people, but just letting them know that you're doing it for the right reasons and being diplomatic and fair with them.
How would you feel about sconcing your friends or fellow exec members if you felt it was necessary?
Absolutely chuffed. I think that, I wouldn't have any qualms at all with sconcing people that need to be sconced. I think it'd be quite entertaining to sconce a mate, as long as they're doing it for the right reasons and not just because they annoyed you that day. I think everyone has to abide by the same rules. If they're your mates as well, they should have the consideration that you are the one going to have to be coming over there to help them off. So they shouldn't be being rowdy as well, just out of respect for you and the rest of the JCR in the formal. But yeah, not a problem. Take my fine.
Yeah, I think similarly to Brogan, I think I would probably enjoy sconcing my friends more than sconcing anyone else, because I know they thoroughly deserve it. But yeah, equally, everyone has to abide by the same rules, whether it's the exec being silly or my friends being silly. They're ruining it for other people, and that's the important thing, is that everyone has to enjoy it. It shouldn't be down to 2 or 3 people getting too rowdy and having too much fun and ruining it for everyone else.
On a slightly similar theme, how would you deal with a particularly rowdy formal?
Sorry, when roughly is it? I think it depends on what sort of time of term sort of things. So if it's early on in term, it's their first couple of formals, you go up to them, you start off being quite friendly. Oh guys, come on, calm it down, you've been a bit rowdy. That's the first warning. You go over again, you're a bit sterner. Guys, look, if you're going to have to do it, I'm going to sconce you, I really don't want to. Third time, right, you're getting sconced, and that's it. Hopefully, once they've learned one sconce, you just have to keep sconcing them, there's nothing else you can do. If it's later on in term and there are repeat offenders, you can sort of skip the first nicey nice. You know that they get rowdy every week, they're a pain. You go over, you tell them, first time, look, I know what you're doing, stop it, or you're getting sconced. It's using the sconce, but also being reasonable, like the first person who says something shouldn't be sconced. They deserve a few warnings, they deserve to be mediated and treated as adults, and the sconcing is the last resort that I frankly don't want to get to, but you might force me.
I do agree you have to deal with each situation as it comes in regards to, if people are known just to be really rowdy members of formal, they wouldn't really have any warnings. If they've had 6 sconces in the past week, just hit them with another one. If you need to somehow get them removed, I believe that if someone receives 2 sconces, you can then ask them to leave if you want to serve them a third. So I think if dealing with this one individual on that basis would be quite effective, but also dealing with the people that are around them, or that's going to be a general area that's quite disruptive. Talk to them as an entire group and just ask them to calm down, or perhaps say that if it's one individual is being encouraged by a lot of other people, then I think they are also equally responsible for being disruptive and ruining the flow of that formal. So just sort of deal with people in groups and people around them to make sure that that whole area calms down and is a bit more sensible.
How would you support the senior man and the exec as a whole?
The new position would involve making sure that people on the exec are dealing with and managing all their action points. So I think a responsible way to do that would be just to be CC'd into emails and making sure that people are writing down their lists, and I would be responsible for checking them off, make sure that everyone is getting done what they need to do. If people seem to be lagging behind, then just give them a friendly reminder. They might have just forgotten about it and can deal with it really quickly. I don't think that getting involved in being on committee meetings for Nicholas Paul with Social Sec is at all what the job entails. I think there's a risk of being too involved in their position and taking away from their responsibility and involving yourself too much. So with that, dealing with the rest of the exec and with the senior man, just having a really great relationship with them, keeping communication, making sure that they know what's on both of your schedules, how busy you are, communicating in advance, and just keeping check on, sharing the responsibility. If a Hatfield member has to be somewhere but not senior man, you could take on that position for them.
Yeah, I think Brogan covered most points there. If you're deputising for senior man, it's not because they can't be bothered doing the work. Obviously, we're all here because we're super keen. If they want you to deputise it, they physically can't do it. And that's where you've got to be really flexible. You've got to both look at your timetables and say, well, look, I'm free this hour, we're going to work it out, we're going to get everything done. Because basically it's for the best of the college that the work gets done. So we need to work it out between us. Overseeing the rest of the exec, it can be something as simple as looking at the action points and saying, yeah, you've done that, you haven't done that. Or it could be just keeping a rough eye on them. Maybe someone is looking super stressed, doesn't really want to say anything because they know everyone else is working hard. If you notice that, you can point it out to the welfare team. It's looking after everyone's welfare as well as just their work. If you have to, you can help them. If I've got a spare hour and I know that social sec is really stressed about something, you can drop down and help them. It's a team effort really.
I know you've both mentioned the SHAPE team already, but how do you intend to support the work of the team coordinator and other team members?
I would help them with anything it'd be quite a loose sort of reassurance with them. So anything they sort of asked me to do, I would definitely help them out with. It can be anything from like publicising their events to speaking with Anthony Bash or anyone else if they've got any problems. I'd just support them. Whatever they need, I will be there to sort of aid them with it, regardless of what the issue is.
I think mainly just making sure that they have a voice and their input is heard on the exec, and as an exec we have access to a lot more resources and a lot more sort of capacity to get things done perhaps on a wider scale than just the SHAPE team individually. So sitting on SHAPE meetings if invited, and wanted to be there so we can report back to the exec as a whole. Also, as I said, if it's okay with them, setting up academic subject groups on Facebook to really help everyone out, and also promoting SHAPE with perhaps getting more like lower level SHAPE champions to sort of infiltrate more demographics of Hatfielders and get them involved. And again, I personally haven't been too involved with SHAPE. It's always on my to-do list when I have my life completely together. So I think just getting in touch with them and seeing what they actually require and they can get done from an exec capacity as opposed to just themselves as a small body.
Thank you. If a student is upset and unable to pay their scones, how would you resolve this issue sensitively?
I think it is a really hard topic, as we can't assume that everyone is in the same position as everyone else. And the reason that the sconce is, in place is just to make sure that we have one standard way of, disciplining everyone for what they've, done wrong. So I think that there are ways that you could get this resolved otherwise, perhaps putting in like an hour of clean-up after an event, or in some way that is, showing them that what they've done is wrong, they need to get something back to the JCR. Because essentially that's what a sconce is. It's putting some money into the JCR account to help out the rest of the students and the rest of the body. We're not just taking money from people because we're horrible. So just in some other way that they could give back to the JCR and understand what they've done was perhaps not the best idea and not do it again. And, from then on, just say, like, you've done it once. If you can't, if you're not in a position to pay for sponsors, just don't get another one, because after a while, there's only so much you can do that's going to make up for that.
Generally, sconces aren't overly extortionate price-wise. I think the standard sconce for being a bit rowdy, which is what we generally talk about, is around £5, which I think most people will spend on a night out on Jaeger bombs. So it's probably doing them a favour that they don't have that money. If it's any more than that and they really can't afford to pay it, you can extend it out over a period of time. So, well, look, you don't have to pay, say it's £30. You don't have to pay £30 right now. Chip it in over £2 a week, £3 a week. It might take you all term, but it isn't hitting you that hard financially. Equally, you can donate some hours because it is just reply with a service. But the sconce is really there to tell them, do not do this again. And if they get in that position, they will be so terrified to have another sconce that it's worked its charm. And then you don't really need to force the issue on them. So just being quite lenient, but ensuring that they do sort of don't take advantage that we don't make them pay.
Thank you very much, guys. That's all the questions from us. Does anyone here have a question? Yeah, Mitty?
You both have fairly time-consuming degrees. How can you ensure or going to be able to manage your time with the work of the role?
So how will you ensure you can balance the work involved with your degree and also the position?
Sure. At the minute, for the past 3 years, I've played for the university hockey, which is highly time-consuming. There have been whole weekends where I think I live at Maiden Castle. It involves 2 training sessions a week, travelling to away games, which can be as far as Manchester, Liverpool. Sometimes we go down south, they take all day. Realistically, you don't get any work done on those days, but I've managed to keep up with my work, stay on top of things throughout the entirety of it. I have already given up the EU hockey next year, regardless of whether I get this position. So there will be a 20 to 30 hour gap in my week that I'm looking to fill, and I think this would be a great way to fill it, because there's nothing I want more than to give back to Hatfield College.
Before I handed in my manifesto for this, I calculated 168 hours in a week, 8 hours a night for sleeping, 3 hours a day for eating, an hour and a half of me time, 40 hours for my degree, other exercises in there, reluctantly. But I managed to find 35 hours that I could guarantee that I could get this position, and I've been guaranteed or reassured that it won't take that much time. It also included 4 hours of walking back and forth to Claypath per day, which I think was quite ambitious. But I think that I am exceptionally organised. I was recently bought a list book from Paper Chase for £8.50, great buy. And yeah, just being really organised, managing time, I think I've been reassured that the position is likely to have less sort of spontaneous disruptions and more sort of plannable time. I'm also giving up D rugby, which was 3 sessions a week and a game as well on a Wednesday. But I think there are enough hours in a week, and it can get done. It's been done before. Alex, at the moment, is a biomed student, has lots of hours, and I think she's doing fine.
Thank you. Becca, do you have one? Yeah.
How will you think about your image within college? Because obviously you have to be friendly and approachable, but then discipline is still in your name. So new freshers, I was really scared. When I first started to have discipline. So how do you think you'll just manage that, being friendly yet still being on that discipline? How will you?
So how will you maintain a friendly and approachable image in college whilst also ensuring you complete your discipline side of the role?
I also was terrified of Sam Deathridge when I arrived, and I think that it is hard to maintain that, but I think I managed to get the balance in Freshers Week. I'm sure a lot of you remember a Wednesday morning about 6:30, me yelling my guts out at you to get in height order, which shouldn't have been as hard as it was. But most of you managed to still think that I'm a nice person, I'm friendly. I think being approachable, also just being stern but respectable, understanding that you are, you do have a position of responsibility and authority, but you're not in any way superior. And so treating people all as adults, all on par, as though, you have a job to do, but, you don't think yourself is above them. I think I am offensively happy and somehow managed to shock a lot of freshers by being really happy at 6 in the morning when you were all really hungover and I had 2 hours sleep. So I think I am quite a happy, perky, approachable person, but can be stern and get you in line when you need to be.
I think the discipline side is only really through formals and when I'm actually called on to defend someone in a disciplinary. So the rest of the time you can just let your natural personality flow through. I am quite happy, quite bubbly, I think I'm quite funny. So all these qualities will eventually make people warm to me. It does take a couple of days before you realise I'm not just a dick. But once they've warmed to me, they'll realise that there'll be no one better to defend them. I believe in this, believe in everything they want. So it's just the only times I need to be stern, I will be. But other than that, I'm just going to be myself, and that's really what you voted for.
Thank you. Are there any other questions anyone would like to ask? No. In which case, Ryan, would you like to come up for your final speech?
I'd like to start off by thanking Josh for proposing me. He's not feeling great. And thank everyone else for sticking around until 9:20 to listen to us ramble on. But I'm just going to reiterate some points that are on my manifesto and sort of expand on them a little bit. So I've said that I'm a natural leader and I've got loads of qualities that I think will make me great for VP Dis. Obviously, super keen on Hatfield for Epping twice. But also, this is the second time I'm running for a VP role. This isn't like a light-hearted decision I'm taking on. I was willing to make the sacrifices last year to do the role this year. I'm willing to do them next year as well. Expanding on a couple of the things that I've said, I was on my manifesto, it says I want to introduce a suggestion box. I have been asked, what is a suggestion box? And ask a stupid question, get a stupid answer. It's a box where you put suggestions. Simple as. We saw earlier this week that a Facebook post got 43 comments saying about food. So obviously people do have opinions and they want to get involved in college. So a suggestion box would allow them to, whenever they have a thought, pop it in a box and we'll reply. You can just say, well, no, that's stupid, we can't do it, X, Y, Z. Or, yeah, I haven't thought about that, that's a great idea. Keeps you all involved. Other than that, I just think I'd be great for the role. So that's about it for me, thanks.
I love this college more than I oft care to admit for the sake of having friends. And I would love I would love the responsibility to hold VPD in this college. I think I've had a lot of involvement and I think I understand the role really well. I've spoken so much to Alex, past members of the exec, as to what it entails and how much commitment is needed. And I think I know that I'm more than willing to give that. Through rugby, I have had to be, a bit authoritative, developed a bit of give a little, get a lot policy. Whatever you give to the club, just anything will get a lot back. And I think having that diplomacy and that fairness will serve me really well in this position. I think on the college-wide and more strategic projects is really what VPD entails from going forward from here. For the Mary's accommodation, I think that putting freshers in the accommodation should be seen as a last resort. I think if the Hatfield seed spirit isn't planted, then we run serious risk of sort of not establishing that sense of community and creating a fractured year group. And although I completely understand that this might just have to be a last resort, I think their welfare and their inclusion will become a main focus of both the exec and the college as a whole. I think developing academic support groups would be really good for college, just having someone near above that does your subject, that look, lab report, what am I doing, help me out, having that sort of support there immediately without having to go to college officers, without having to tell anyone that you're really having a hard time and just sort of beat it before it gets that bad would be really great. Obviously, moving forward, there are going to be big movements with river safety, being involved in that and supporting that at a university-wide level and bringing that into college. And just, I think, I do have a great relationship with college officers, and I think that would be really great coming into the role. Getting them to agree to things that perhaps they wouldn't normally do, is quite a challenge. We managed to get quite a lot of that through for Freshers Week. So I'd love to be an ex-VPD. I think I've got the passion, the enthusiasm, and the responsibility, the OCD. So vote for me, and I'd do a great job for you guys.